Hi everybody, welcome back to Art Time Today. I'm Cheryl Smith and I'll be your art teacher for this new activity. This one's all about cityscapes, drawings of cities. It's going to be fun because it's using shapes and then crayons mostly, but we can also paint it with watercolor paint if you would like. You also may choose to color it with markers. But if that's your choice, paint isn't the best thing to use with markers because it'll all smear. So crayons and paint or markers. And so what I want to tell you just a little bit about is what a cityscape is. This is a painting that was done by an artist named Huey Lee Smith. And Huey Lee Smith painted, he was an American artist, and he painted a lot of pictures of cities and the people that lived in the cities. You can look him up online if you want to, Huey Lee Smith. I wanted you to notice the different shapes of windows and doors and the different rooftops that they might have. So when we get ready to do ours, we can put all kinds of different rooftops and all kinds of different windows. Whatever you like, it's out of your imagination. So it can be super, super cool. To get started, I like to have tracers that are rectangular shapes, sometimes maybe with a little extra piece on top. So if you can get your grown-ups to cut boxes that you've already eaten all the contents out of, have them cut along the folds, and then they can cut rectangle shapes. They can cut triangle shapes for rooftops if you want to. Just if you're going to use this size paper, make sure your rectangles fit and they're not too extra big, because that would be too tall unless you held it this way, and you could do that too. So that's up to you. Figure that part out. Have your grown-ups cut you out some rectangles. I even have a peppermint tea box that has perfect shapes in it. So that's the way to get started. Get your shapes ready so you can start making your own design. So let me move these over here. Let me show you these couple of pictures. This one we did one time in my art camp. We colored that in and we made it with rectangle buildings. We used some triangular shapes. They are different kinds of trapezoids. And then we put all kinds of details in that. This one's much fancier. This one is done with crayons and paint, and then traced over it afterwards with a black marker. This one is done with all marker. So that's up to you. You can figure out how you would like to complete your work. First thing, find your shapes, and you're going to be tracing them onto your paper. So let me get my shape. This is a cool one. This came out of a Mr. Coffee grinder box, and it's got this cool top, so I thought that would be a pretty cool rooftop. So I'm going to line up the bottom, line up the edge, and I'm going to trace it. I'm going to trace with a pencil to start with, and then that one's good. And let me get another one. This is from a granola bar box. And I'm going to trace this one. I'm going to line it up on the bottom edge and line it up right next to the first building. Trace around that. Remember, hold this nice and still so it doesn't wiggle wobble. Push this off to the side. I'm going to make this one tall, like it's big and then smaller and smaller. So I have another shape that's a little smaller rectangle. And I'm going to come up and over and then back down. Make sure you keep holding it. Then I have another shape with a kind of a slanted diagonal top, and I'm going to put that on there. Now if I put it all the way up, it's going to go off my paper, so I have to move it down a little bit, and I'll move it down just like that. Trace that. I have one with a cool top. Line it up right at the bottom. I've got a clip in the way, so line it up, trace around that, around the top, down the side, shoom. And what I want to do too is I want to draw a little line that goes from this building right across the edge. It'll be like the road or the sidewalk over here. So you can do a little line, or you can just draw these all the way down and not worry about the sidewalk. Here's another one. I'll put this on, up, over, and down to the sidewalk. And then the last one I have is a diagonal, and I'll just set that right on the side and just do a little diagonal down there. Once you get the shapes of your buildings in there, you can trace it with crayon, with a black crayon, or a red or a purple, it doesn't matter what color. You can trace it with all different colors. And trace it around, and then we're going to start adding windows. So I have one that I have started. And I'll put this one right up here. And you'll be able to see this little piece right here. So I have traced it with black. I've added different shapes of windows, and that's up to you. You're totally you can be out of your imagination, any kind of window shapes. I'm sticking with black here to start with. When I'm drawing my designs in, this is a little wonky. Let's see if I can, okay. So I started this one with rectangles. I'm gonna add another row of rectangles down here. These are kind of almost squares. They're not completely, that one's more of a rectangle. I put a little doorway down here. I can add the crossbar to open it up. I can trace around it a little bit to make it have a little extra on it. And you can even go back inside and put plus signs in the windows. You can do that on all of them if you want. I made some little tiny windows in the small building. I like circle windows sometimes. So I made a row of circles, and you can add some circles in. And you can add your doorway. Kind of doorway do you want? It can be any kind of way. Make it fancy. You can put doorknobs on it or whatever. This one I added extra lines. So I took one of my rectangles and I made a few extra lines in that to make that look like maybe it's a glass building that just has stripes and lines on it. And then this one had that cool top to it. And so I thought that looked like a rooftop. And sometimes they have these fancy edges that curve. And so I traced that all the way through here. And then I made windows just like Huey Lee Smith did, with a flat edge at the bottom and a rounded top. It's called an arch. Flat bottom, a rounded top. And you can do that all the way across and make your windows really super cool that way. I made a little, in this little shop here, I made a little, like it's a pet store or something. I just drew a line across, and then I went whoop, 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 just like the awning out front of a little shop down your street, and with the doorway inside there. And you can add lines in that as well to make it look like it's the awning, or you can even write the word pets on there if you wanted to. And then this last building, we made some horizontal lines. I can do the same here, boom, bitty boom, and boom, come across. And this one, let's see, what do we want to put in there? I'm going to just put a couple of more rectangles and another doorway. So you can make it any way you want to. Once you get it all fancy, you can even put flags or something on top. If you want to, you can put a little flag up high. You can draw lights if you want on the top. Anything. You can even put a billboard, a big sign way up high on your building if you want. You can write whatever. Maybe this is your name, city. You know, so this might be Smith City for me, and I might write that there. You can make that up if you want to. But draw, make it really super cool. When you finish that, then it will be time to color it in. And once you color it in, you can decide, again, how much you want to color. or if you want to leave some plain, it's up to you. You can see that I've colored this one brown, and this one I did blue, and that's kind of a reddish orange. And I've colored different colors. I would color some more. I would fill these in. Maybe I'm going to fill in my windows, and I'll do this one row so you can see that. Fill in my windows, maybe color in the door. But then if you're using crayons and you have watercolor paint at home, it would look something like this. It's usually in a box, and it'll sometimes have a paintbrush in it. And you can use watercolor paint, and you can paint right over the top of crayons. So I have one here ready for me to use. And what I'm going to do is I have my bowl of water down here. It's a dog bowl. But you know what? They don't tip over. It was the best thing ever I ever figured out. Anyway, so I use my water bowl, and I always gently wipe the paintbrush on the edge. I don't bang, tap, tap, because that makes a huge spray. So dip it, wipe it on the edge, and then pick your color. So this building I didn't pick color at all. So I feel like I want that to be purple. And I think that's going to be really dark purple. So I'm going to add a little touch of water to that. And then I'm going to paint right on my building. And you'll notice that the crayon shows through. Right? It shows right through. It's so cool. So you can paint that. You can paint the whole entire picture if you want to. If you color it, you can still paint it. But if you decide to color with markers, no paint, because the markers and the paint don't mix well. The markers will smear everywhere. So I paint that real nicely. Maybe I want to paint my windows here. And you can take your time and have a really fun time. If you do not have watercolor paint and you want to just color it, markers are fine. You can use markers and crayons. When this is all finished, completely done, if you have a black marker, you can then go back around. I can't trace that now because it's wet, but you could go back over everything and darken in your edges if you want to. Kind of the way this one is. Did you follow me, Fred? Are we in the picture? Fantastic. So this one we used markers, made the colors super, super bright. This one, same way we did this over here. It was pencil and, excuse me, and then crayons. And at the very end, then I used a marker. This one has a radar on the top and a flag, and it even has some water towers like they have in New York City. And this one, I even made a little car and some little people down there if you want to do that. Because you're the artist, you're going to be able to make your artwork super, super cool. I hope you're having fun with Art Time today. Tell your friends, and if you make a really cool picture that you want to show people, maybe you can put it on the Art Time Today Facebook page. That would be really neat, and then we can see what you're doing. Share these with your friends, and everybody make time for Art Time. Bye-bye.